Valeria, thanks for coming on the podcast. Could you start with an introduction of who you are and what you've been working on, please?
Oh, sure. So I don't really like to make some flashy introductions about myself and going on ramble about who am I. And overall, just a quote unquote usual 16-year-old kiddo from the Ukraine who's building businesses, building communities for SaaS companies, and just partnering with 0%. I don't know. Just that's who I am.
Yeah, sure. It's always a weird one for me, like, because I feel like sometimes I should introduce people, but then I don't want to introduce them in a way they don't want to be introduced, so whatever. Okay, so building businesses at 16, how did you, like, get into that?
Oh, so for quite a long while, I was kind of stuck in the thought of, that 9 to 5 is like the only way to go.
Mm,
So just as each of us was kind of like psyoped into it, that we have to like work hard all of our lifetime, then retire at the age of like 65 or something. And but apparently it is not the way to go. I even tried coding for like 1.5 years basically. And it's like in that whole time, I've had a timer on my phone, so I've had a special app that was like designed to count hours of like your work or whatever. So how many hours you are working on some project, and I've been counting hours for like a year, and it was around like 800 hours of like pure coding basically. So it's like, fun fact, and it wasn't just sitting down studying, but just like actually like coding.
mm-hmm.
And I've been like developing Android apps for all of that time because apparently, just as my parents said, you're gonna be a programmer, have a good life, land a nice job. But it has always been odd to me. Like, first of all, I'm that kind of person. Uh, I like to illustrate it with one story. Like, who am I? Imagine a 5-year-old kid, like little one, that comes to every single, like 18-year-old, some teenager, even like guys, and goes like, "Do you want to be friends? Let's be friends." And like striking conversations here and there and just going out, like talking to a bunch of people. And now imagine that kind of a person sitting down in some office in a
Mm.
cubicle next to the laptop for the next 8 hours or so and just coding. It's like,
Yeah, not for you.
not for me. Definitely not for me. Maybe for somebody else it's a great way to go, but not for me. And just this realization came to me, after war. Like I remember vividly that morning of like 24th of February, when I was coding. I was at my old laptop back at that time, and I mean that was crazy. I was just testing some app, and a few days before that, like everyone knew that the war is gonna like start at some
Mm.
point. Actually, like a full scale invasion to be exact. But nobody thought it's gonna be like that unexpected. I mean, you can't expect this to happen, but still. And for context, I was developing a news app at that time. Why a news app? Because everyone wanted to know like news from like Western media sources because we thought that they are gonna like know all of the stuff.
Mm.
And actually, they did know more than us. And I was just sitting here. It was 4 a.m. I woke up at that time. I developed a habit of waking up early during my like programming days. I was just sitting here, just scrolling through my phone, testing out new features, and then I remember it was like 5:02 a.m. or something like this, and then just I hear like a loud sound, like a really loud one,
Mm.
and it was like an engine, like an airplane. Actually, I hear the sound, I feel the vibration on my table, and then I just turn my head like this. And imagine it's dawn, it's like dark everywhere, the sun is coming up, and like a huge military airplane is just flying somewhere past my windows.
Was that from Ukraine's side or Russia's?
I have no clue, to be honest. It's like it was so dark that I couldn't even like like see the color or maybe like the model of like, even right now, like sometimes there might be some, airplanes or something like this flying, but at least you can like see the color and then you just Google the model and you understand that it's only from Ukraine, not from like Russia. But back then, I guess I assume it was from Ukraine because it was flying to somewhere in the side of Kiev.
Hmm.
And in Kiev, the airport got bombarded a few, like, an hour back, basically, because, you know, around 4 a.m., they invaded us, basically, and then they bombarded an airport in Kiev and another city and, like, all the major airports. So I guess it was just flying there. But still, it was so scary. Like, imagine that. And I was just sitting here, having my phone in my hand, looking at this, and I realized that it might have been my last moment in life.
Hmm.
And what I was doing, I was pursuing somebody else's dreams, not my own.
Yeah.
I was stuck for a while, completely. And, you know, it was hard to like understand, comprehend something. For the next few days, I was just in some weird state where you're just like a robot. You're like, you don't understand what happened. I guess maybe some of the people felt the same during the lockdown when, like suddenly you can't go outside,
Hmm.
basically. But it's like, it's completely different still. Like, it's hard to explain it.
Yeah.
And, but still, after a certain period of time, you more or less get used to it. Even the people who like live in an actual war zone, from what I've heard. And it's crazy to think how people can adapt to something.
Hmm.
It's almost the same as people actually why so little people will, like, for example, pursue entrepreneurship and consider doing that. Because we think that, some old patterns of thinking that we adopted from somebody else are going to be beneficial to us. Well, actually, it's not. Well, actually, we need to think for ourselves.
Hmm.
And you can take almost any belief that you have out here, almost anything. And if you start to question it, you're going to come up to the conclusion that it actually doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah. So that, I guess, terrifying moment that was the spark for you that I need to do something different because
Exactly.
I could actually die and I'm not enjoying what I'm doing.
Exactly. And it was a moment of awakening. I guess it's cheesy to say this, but it's like a true one. Because that's the definition.
Yeah, like that quote, like a person has two lives and their second one begins when they realize they only have one.
Yes.
That was your
Exactly.
moment there.
I guess that was exactly that moment.
Has
But
any
there is no better quote to explain it, actually.
has any good come from this at all? I mean, I know it's a very tragic situation, but is there any good that's come from it?
Oh man, I can now feel cynical saying this in some sense. For me and for some people who I know, even like from actual war zones like Kharkiv, it has been beneficial because they've changed their lives completely. They've realized that their old paradigms must die and they must just, live a new life from this point. But at the moment, of course, it's painful.
Hmm.
Anything is painful, any change is painful. But then when you just understand that, you either just decline or just rise up and become better than who you were before. That's like this tipping point. And I would say for me personally, yes, it made me break out of my shell, seek some new people who I can partner up with, who I can build businesses with, and just, I don't know, get associated with different projects, then start my own agency and build my own agency instead of helping someone else do that. So that was an amazing journey so far.
Mm.
Like, if I were to now completely comprehend it. In the moment, it seemed like nothing is certain anymore. So it's like my father is about to lose his job. My mom can't really work because she's quite old, and apparently here it's like job market. If you're older than 40, you're like nothing. Seriously, even if you like have all of the qualifications or like anything, it's like it doesn't really matter. You're already like like okay, meh, like why would we take you? Uh, Weird situation,
Yeah.
and it's not really regulated by any laws as far as I know, and still there's like competition to your place, so you can't really do anything about it. And here's me, and I feel all of the fault on my shoulders. It wasn't like I was sitting here and blaming just war or some any other like obstacles on my way for the fact that this happened. I just realized that, if I were to have everything differently, and if I were to take it and go down a different route, if I were to do something that I don't enjoy at all, and just go on sheer discipline, it would be a completely different story at that point of time, and I might have done everything differently.
So, is that you saying that's a good thing that you almost blamed yourself?
For me personally, yes, but I mean, here it's a double-edged sword, the fact that you blame yourself all of the time. Why so? Because it can make you depressed again, or you can just grow up from this. And way, way before that, I used to compete in several scientific competitions. So here we have this thing where you compete against students of your school first, then against the students of your city, then your state. It's like, regions here, we call it. And then Ukraine. And then I don't know about World Tour. I mean, haven't heard of it, and it's kind of weird because then you climb up the ladder and that's it. Like, okay, you're the smartest kiddo, and what's next? I mean, it's absurd, completely absurd, and doesn't make any sense. But to me back then it seemed like a world, literally. And I remember how just maybe for like the first time that I took scientific competition in math, it was like everything. So I've always realized that like I come from like a working class family, basically. But here, uh, all of a sudden, working class families, some of them live better life than some of the people who are, you know, um, in like families where two of the parents work in some corporate jobs or something like this. Kind of weird. I don't know how this happens. I usually hear the different story in different countries, but that's how it is here. And so my father has always like been and still is a construction worker, and he just genuinely first loves his job because he might have became at some point he has had so many orders from like so many people, and he had a group of people basically who he could have just took the project from, gave it to people and just managed it, and then just scaled up from it. But he didn't do that from the perspective of that he actually just likes to do his job, and that is it. Because being like mastering your craft and doing a business is like two different things. Those are two different skill sets, and not everyone necessarily wants to do a business. That's what some people must realize as well. Because right now it becomes trendy to become an entrepreneur, but not everyone is going to enjoy this path. Not everyone is meant to be like a millionaire from having a lot of different people who do tons of tasks. Someone is meant to be, I don't know, just even like a philosopher and just write amazing books and people read them and it's awesome. That's it. That's their craft. Um, and yeah, and so I always saw his work ethic. He works 6 days a week, 10 hours straight, and he still enjoys what he does, which is like which has always been at the same time, it's kind of sad to me because I don't get to see him often. He works in a different city, works hard for us. And I've always felt kind of that I can't really be grateful to him like fully. It's like the fact that I just take all of this, it's like it's not enough. Like I want to express my gratitude and like help my family actually. And I've kind of always felt like obliged in a sense. And I've always admired his work ethic completely. And so this fact, but I took it differently back then. I didn't take it as like motivation and inspiration, but instead I was just looking here and I was like, but I can't do anything. Well, it's like the biggest lie. You can do anything, literally. And and then me, I see all of those. I compared myself to all of those kids who won different scientific competitions, or even like to my sister. I have an older sister who's like a math teacher, and everyone says that she's always been talented, and like all of this pressure,
Mm.
and like it actually like broke me at that point because I just blamed myself. Like I wasn't good enough, and that is it. I haven't improved from it. So you can either do it this way, where you take all of the pressure on yourself, you do what you hate, and you blame yourself for it, or just realize that you're not a tree, you're not rooted in something, and you can do anything. And then you just do your own thing. And then I would say it's not even blaming yourself, it's owning your life,
Mm.
because that's the main difference. Because some of the people, they might be adults, full grown adults, but they're still acting like kids. They seek
Mm.
someone to see what they should do, find someone who's going to tell them how to live life. Well, actually, there is no one way of living life. And it's
Yeah.
the most scary thought to everyone.
You're not a tree. I like that. You're not rooted in something. That's a great way of putting it.
See, I guess I plagiated this quote from someone. I stole it. But I have no clue who's the author of it. So,
Pretty much everything's stolen. It's just people don't know what the source is.
exactly. And someone claims that they've invented all of the writing principles.
Yeah, and then you realize you go like 3,000 years back and they still knew all of them.
Exactly. It's funny to see how people accuse someone of plagiarism. I mean, if you just go back in history, I guess someone was the first one to invent it and we'll never know names because they just got lost in the history.
Exactly. Yeah, you
Yeah.
mentioned you were building an app for like Western news. Do the people around you like do they trust the Western news? Because I know a guy who is living
Uh-huh.
in Russia when this all started going down, and he's just like he doesn't trust Western news or like Russian news. He doesn't trust any of it.
Oh, so when um, I guess it's like a different perspective because here people are instead like more inclined to believe that everything is being censored here, especially like during this time because we're like, you know, government doesn't want us to panic. That's why they're gonna just hide everything.
Mm.
Uh, Even the fact with like Chernobyl tragedy, for example, where again nuclear plants, massive catastrophe, tons of radiation just got outside. Um, Even back then, people who like most of the people around me, okay, they are adults. They remember those times, and they say that back then, like Soviet Union government basically just hidden it. So it was on April 26th, and people on May 1st went on parades for like Labor Day. Tons of people like from Kiev, and it was like Chernobyl is like next to Kiev. It's like 20 kilometers or something like this. So
Yeah.
there was like massive, massive radiation,
Yeah.
and all of those people went outside during that time for Labor Day because the government didn't warn them about it.
Ugh.
Yes, and like imagine it.
Yeah.
And a lot of people like actually got a lot of different diseases because of this, and even more. Like those like old cameras.
Yeah.
Yeah, and even if you see footages from that time, you can see like white dots on them.
Mm.
It's because of radiation.
Yeah.
So that's how bad it was,
Just so people
literally.
don't panic. I don't think that's a great strategy, because if you don't know what's going on, you can't do anything about it.
And that's why. So it was like we've had this experience before,
Mm.
and even though the government has changed, we're still like, like not really, not really trustworthy source. Maybe we should just go and observe something new. In Russia, so there were times, like I remember before 2014. So it's like from everything that people around me are saying, um, it's also that we've had access to Russian channels, and it has always been some propaganda, literally. It's like you couldn't even watch it, actually,
Yeah.
even like in some movies or something like this. Um, and right now, when we've been traveling somewhere, like I don't know, for vacation, for like a week, like somewhere in like Egypt, let's say, or Turkey, where you can actually watch Russian channels, it became almost unbearable. Literally, you open it, and it's something like, I don't know. Here's what happened in Russia, and like here's why everyone is bad. Western society is fallen. Russia is rising. Ruble is nice, and like all of this stuff. And there's like no sources to it whatsoever, no facts, like nothing, just those like slogans. And we couldn't even like watch it. And also there was like some sort of like hate towards like Ukraine particularly. It was like even back in 2022, in summer of 2022. um oh wait, not in summer 2022, sorry, 2021. uh yeah. I even had like, I feel good about like Russian people. It's not that I have hate towards them,
Mm.
because I personally have like
Yeah.
basically relatives in Russia. uh, at the same time, I always like to joke about this. It's that I'm actually might be half Russian and half Polish. And throughout the history, Poland and Russia were kind of like the biggest suppressors of Ukraine, and like, always invading us and all of this stuff. So it's like, the biggest oppressor is right here, right in front of you. That's like on the topic of, something like that we actually hate someone, or like all of this. No, like on a people level, like nationality doesn't really matter. It's like
Mm.
what matters is like what's inside of your head, basically.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that matters. And like I've had even more. I've had those stories. So basically, when we traveled to Turkey, because of the fact that a lot of Russian people traveled here, we've always tried to like not talk in Ukrainian at all. Like speak like pure Russian with like some like Moscow accent,
Mm.
as best like as possible. Here, it's like even if people speak Russian, they add some Ukrainian words, so it becomes like a dialect.
Mm.
We even have like this phenomenon here called like surzhyk. It's like basically a mix of Ukrainian and Russian with like some different words that we make on the go. Basically, like grammar rules are from Ukraine, and like some words from Russian, and it just becomes a mishmash that only people right here can understand. And so from where I'm from this region, it's like people just speak exactly this dialect. So in a normal situation, it might sound for a while that I speak Russian, but actually it's absolutely clear that I'm from Ukraine, because it's like,
Mm.
still add in some weird words. And I just remember this story how I was sitting in like cafeteria, and there was like this Russian family, and they've had like a little kid, like a little girl. And so I caught myself. I've realized at some point that I wasn't like speaking like pure Russian. So I was speaking quite loud, fast, and like mostly like Ukrainian.
Mm.
So I've had like really apparent accent. And even before that girl came to our table, because like we've had a cat here, cats, common thing in Turkey. They are everywhere, and everyone is just praising them, giving them some meat, from the table. Really love Turkey because of this. um, And so there was like a cat under our table. And like the girl was sitting at the table of their parents, and their parents were kind of looking at us like weirdly, like, you know, like gazing like this. It's like,
Mm.
who are you? It's like, I was like, okay, like, I don't care. I don't really care. And they were just eating. And then their girl like came from the table just to pat the cat. She started to ask us something like, "Did you feed her?" Something like this. I immediately switched to Russian. We just started like small chit chat, like, yeah, maybe she's hungry. Yeah, we give her like, I don't know, some meat, something like this. And then suddenly, her parents just got from the table. They haven't even finished the plate. Took the girl and went outside. I was just sitting here and I was like, why? Like, I mean, what's exactly wrong? Is it wrong that the girl came to us and started talking? Because she was patting the cat for a while, silently, and nothing really happened. They didn't really care that much about it. But when we started talking to her, they immediately just basically hopped and just ran outside.
Mm.
And that was really weird to me. And it just gets to show like how some of the people can actually like believe everything that is on the news,
Mm.
lose their like healthy amount of criticism, and then just develop some hatred towards some people based off of like nationality.
Yeah.
That was just like some personal story that stuck with me at that point.
Interesting. Because I heard a lot of people on both, like living in Russia and Ukraine, that a lot of them just
Yeah,
no one wants this. Like, because like you said, you've got like relatives across the border. That's the case for a lot of people. I'm pretty sure. So
exactly. Even like in 2014, everyone was like, why? Like, why would you do this? I mean, I can travel to Russia back in like 2013. I could have traveled to my grandfather, seen him. I don't know, saw where he lives. Uh, like I could have done it quite
mm,
easily. Now it's like nobody's gonna do this. Obviously,
yeah,
the ties are basically cut. They are even afraid of like speaking to us, basically like using WhatsApp
mm,
because they think that their phone is being monitored 24/7.
mm. It's wild. Yeah. So you think the Russian news is basically propaganda, but what about like the Western news?
Oh man.
Do you think that's a reliable source?
To be fairly honest, when you hear about some stuff like BlackRock, you don't trust any news at this point. It's just that each source has their own agenda, their own propaganda, and that's why maybe if you just take all of the sources, combine them together, maybe you're gonna have at least some percentage of truth.
Mm,
But at least for not losing the criticism and like analytical thinking and applying it somewhere, you know, why not? Like, that's the logic that most of the people have here.
yeah. Okay. So they think it's better for sure because yeah, it like you said they all have their own kind of views and agenda, but it's definitely not perfect. I would not say, but it's definitely sounds better than the Russian news.
I
Right.
mean, yeah, it's like it's not that controlled. At least there is some independent journalism. Okay, it's like at least someone is voicing their opinion and not being sent somewhere or just suddenly disappears. So
Yeah, I mean they do censor some opinions, but yeah, okay. And then you mentioned I've seen on your Twitter as well. You're waking up at like 4 a.m., like 3:30 a.m. What?
oh yeah.
Why did you decide to do that? What benefits do you think you get from that?
So lately I've actually been kind of experimenting with this. And so usually my wake up time is like either like 7 a.m. when I go to bed like really late. And no matter when I go to bed. So it's like I might go to bed at like 3 a.m. and I still wake up at 7 a.m. Maybe that's because of school. almost my whole entire life, I just woke up at 7 a.m. to go to school. I have no clue, but that's interesting. And when I go to bed earlier, it's like 4 a.m.
Hmm.
So I guess it's just the combination of both of my like life habits. And overall, it worked just personally for me. It might not work for someone else, and still sometimes I just switch up my schedule. Sometimes I might, start going to bed late because I get some fresh new ideas, some new takes. I just want to write them down, or maybe I want to read something. Or maybe I just start thinking about some existential things and I can't stop. I'm losing my sleep, and then suddenly I just go to bed late, basically. Um, but that's what personally works for me, because when you wake up, there is no one around you.
Hmm.
Everything is as silent as possible. You don't even get to hear some buses outside. The sun is only coming up when it's summer. When it's winter, you're just sitting here and it's dark.
Yeah.
And you're like, might as well work. I have else to do. Or actually, I rarely just get up and straight work. It doesn't really work for me. It doesn't really
Hmm.
work for me working. Perfect. I'm repeating myself. Anyways, I sometimes just wake up and I like to take the first hour to just realize, okay, I woke up. What I might do next? What ideas do I have? What thoughts do I have? Maybe I've got some of the problems that I want to solve.
Hmm.
So it's like a perfect time to just think, because you're
Yeah.
like a plain piece of paper. You have nothing.
Yeah.
The most like calm time. And usually you want to work when you have the most thoughts in your head, because you're like, no, 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 I don't want to think about all of this. Might as well just sit down and just do something. Um, yeah, so the logic of the whole money Twitter, where they go like, oh, I wake up at 4 a.m. and immediately go to work, I mean, might work for someone. Personally, I don't really like it.
Hmm.
And the philosophy of doing some healthy stuff that actually benefits you and that you like in your own way, I guess it's quite nice.
Yeah. That's the key point, I think. A lot of people hear all these people saying, "Oh, I wake up at like 4 a.m. or whatever," but it has to work for you. Otherwise, there's just no point doing it.
Exactly. And if you don't really want to do that, then don't. Who forces you? Again, it's like, who told you that to succeed, you must wake up at like 4 a.m.? I've recently found an infographics of all of the creative people and just an overall like entrepreneurs as well. So it was like a huge long infographics with all of those names and their daily routines.
Hmm.
Personally, I haven't found a really good pattern, except for, no, there's tons of exceptions. It's like trying to learn how to read in English. You don't have any rules, you have only exceptions. Literally. By the way, it's a huge problem for people out here.
Oh yeah, for sure. No, it's like because I'm native English, it's fine. But then I'll look back, like my brother when he was young, when he was learning how to like read and write, and I'm just looking at him like, yeah, that doesn't make sense. Why is it like that? So if you look at it hard enough, it doesn't make sense because we've just always had it. It's like easy, but yeah, I'm pretty sure English is one of the hardest languages to learn. So
Just because of this point. Like, just, you don't know how to read. If you're seeing the word for the first time, you don't know how to read it, actually. You can't be 100% sure.
it's like
It's like a guess.
the rules work like 51% of the time, and 49% of the time they don't work. So
Yes, yes, and it's annoying. And I guess that's more or less how life is. Like, actually. It's more like I'm just trying out. I see what works for me personally and what doesn't work for me personally. So it's like, you can take Albert Einstein, an amazing person, but he slept all of the time. If he were to be on Money Twitter right now, he would be disliked by everyone, literally. Like, you're not hustling, bro. What are you doing? You're not wearing Crocs.
you're not wearing Crocs. I saw you did a tweet about that. What's the deal with Crocs?
I guess it's a new trend right here on Twitter, suddenly. I mean, there are tons of trends like this.
You have to
People
wake up
just
at
hop
4
on
a.m. and
them.
wear Crocs.
Yeah.
That's what I'm
I guess
missing.
that might be the secret to success. You also need to wake up really early, find the sun, sun your balls, and then go take an ice cold shower and wear Crocs.
Yeah, and eat some like raw liver or something as well.
Yeah. So that's the way to live life, definitely.
It's crazy. People always looking for like a quick hack, and
Yeah, and they just that goes back to the point where people kind of escape 9 to 5, but they still want to see some authority, some boss who's gonna tell them how to live life properly, what to do.
follow people on Twitter.
Yes, they're seeking some gurus, and then they copy them and hopes that it's all gonna work out for them.
Yeah. Interesting how it parallels with like they want a boss still. Yeah. Don't have thought about that before.
And there are tons of things that we think that we can do. I don't exactly remember who that was. Maybe that was the person who invented the web, World Wide Web.
Oh.
Very big pity that I don't remember his name. I feel ashamed because I've been a geek for quite a while, and I knew his name by heart. But okay, anyways. So he was a student, like back in his student days, he missed some lecture, and there was like some new topic, and the teacher has been explaining some of the tasks in math that are unsolvable, that haven't been solved by anyone before. And so he left a note on the desk, basically. And then that guy came in, like him as the lecturer, came in. There is nobody in here, and just this task on the desk. Okay, what can I do? Like on the board. I'm sorry, on the desk. That's weird. Imagine writing on a desk.
Oh, I thought you meant like on a piece of paper on the desk. Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Straight on the desk.
Straight on the desk. Literally taking notes on the desk. And then you just can't wipe them out. Anyways, so on the board. And he just looked at it and was like, might as well be a homework. Okay, let me write it down, do it, then give it to teacher because I missed the lecture, really guilty. And then he gave it to teacher, the solution. So he has been like working on it for like 3 days. He couldn't solve it, obviously. And then he found a solution, suddenly. He came to the teacher, handed this piece of paper with the solution. The teacher was just staring at it. And then he told him that this problem was basically unsolved for like hundreds of years. And then he suddenly solved it, like a student. It's the same thing with like sub 4-minute mile.
Yeah.
Where like before that one guy ran it, everyone thought it's impossible. Like our body can do this. And then suddenly everyone started to do this. We've got so many like arbitrary rules inside of our head.
Yeah, that's what I quite like about your content is I see you a lot of the time you're always talking about like challenging these beliefs and stuff that we have in our heads. I think it's really important. Like a lot of people need that.
Exactly. It's like, for the past few months, I guess I was like more, business focused, community, and like talking about all of this. And I just, I'm still in touch with some of the fans who found out about me like in November. And back then I honestly I haven't studied like growth hacks, anything. I just tweeted from my head. I just sat down and I just wrote all of my thoughts. The most contrary one, the most unliked one, the most unpopular ones. Like not hustling, like thinking and like all of this. And people liked it. I got the most followers during that time. And so I still have those people who keep reading my content from that time when they found me. And I got in touch with them lately. And they told me how they really don't like the content that I'm posting right now. And they've actually found out, even my clients, they found out about me back then. And they actually want that kind of content. And that was kind of shocking to me because I always thought it's like, hey, don't you want to increase your MRR or reduce your churn, Why would you read about all of this woo-woo stuff that nobody actually cares about? Like, might as well just hustle, work 16-hour work days, in hopes that something's gonna work out.
Yeah. Interesting. Why do you think that is? That they want to hear that? Like, do you think that's because a lot of they believe it, and they want to hear that because not many people are talking about it, but they are thinking it?
I guess so. I've heard from someone. I've been talking to someone about like, creating an offer and like how to find out what market needs. And there is like such thing called unpopular majority or silent majority,
Mm.
where it's like everyone is thinking about something,
Yeah.
but they don't really like say about it or talk about it because it's kind of like they feel ashamed or like out of their plate, you know I don't know, a fish on a tree, basically. It's like, why would I talk about this? It's like, it's so unpopular. Everyone hustles. Why would I, like, talk about some, I don't know, almost spirituality stuff? And that's, I guess, how almost everyone feels. Even though we might, like, keep it to ourselves, we want to get inspired in a sense. And we don't want to just go on sheer discipline and do something that we don't actually think is right.
Mm.
And something that is like really, really painful and something that we really dislike. We don't actually want to do this. Like the first reason why most of the people escape their 9 to 5 and switch to entrepreneurship in the first place is because they don't like to be told what to do
Mm.
and they want freedom. But then they create themselves another prison, just a larger one.
Mm. Yeah.
Because they think they are going to miss out on something. Because they think if they spend less time on what they're doing, they're going to get less outputs, while actually they are working on building systems to spend less time on it. But right now they aren't willing to actually let it go.
Mm. Yeah.
There's like even more like differentiation between like a freelancer and basically like a guy who has an agency or like even like a boutique agency. The first person isn't willing to just go and delegate something to someone
Mm.
and actually like invest maybe into marketing and just like get big, like expand, actually like hire someone who's gonna maybe delegate the outreach, for example. They think that they can only do this, only they can know, only they can do it the best, only they. And on the other side, and it's like if they work more, they're gonna have more. And at the same time, we have like an entrepreneur who basically doesn't want to tie his hours to the paycheck. And that's why he lets it go.
Mm. Yeah.
So that's really interesting to think about this. And like we're always talking about how creativity is like valued in our world. And then suddenly we're hustling to like not be creative at all. I don't know. Have 4 hours of sleep. Feel sleep deprived. Grind sad. Getting more. Getting richer.
Yeah. Do you think you were like that at the beginning?
Man, I still find myself in this cycle from time to time. It's like, like I can wake up at 4 a.m., grind, then I go to bed, and then it's again. And at some point you just reach like this moment where you're sitting here and you just can't even focus.
Mm.
You're really distracted all of the time.
You've
You just can't handle yourself. And you blame yourself for not being like productive, all of this, and then you like reach burnout.
Sounds familiar.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then when you accept this thought that, oh, man, maybe I'm not really that important, because it's also ties out to our like ego and
Mm.
like to our confidence. Because it's like sometimes it's like, man, how can business function without me?
Yeah. It becomes
Or
your identity that you're like hustling. Yeah, I'm the person who always does this much work.
yes. Or for example, or for guys who like build a personal brand and do tons of outreach at the same time. Like, have you ever heard of, I don't know, it's like most of the people, for example, who go into client ascension, do they really see, I don't know, a cold email wizard outreaching to them to go to client ascension? I've personally never heard of it. They might be doing outreach, but like I've never heard of it. Like every single person, like from my, surroundings, they got into client ascension on their own because they know all of those guys, they trust them, and then they go here. They join
Yeah.
the program. Same with almost anything, literally anything. It's such a rare thing where you actually go here because someone outreached to you and told you about like some service of theirs.
Yeah. I think I know you've got to go soon. I think this will be like the kind of last thing, but I think it's kind of, maybe this loop this in, that we talked earlier about people looking for like a hack or whatever,
Yeah.
and how you're talking about now with outreach that most of the time it's people coming to you. So could you talk about why you like community so much? I think you said that
Oh,
audience is dead, but like community is alive. And why is that?
if you think about each of the products that were built in the past, it was we're building the product first, then we're buying tons of ads, people get to know about it, and that's it. I always like to tie it to market sophistication levels, even. Right now, unless you're some giant like an Apple, you won't really be able to compete with like some tech companies, For example, just the most basic one. And it happens everywhere. And if you have some, like, I like the example of Notion. They were here, they built something amazing, people fall in love with it, then they find out who loves it the most, and they make them add more people. And in the era of constant ads, constant outreach, constant junk that we get in our ears, knowing that even influencers are paid, we can't trust anyone, literally anyone, except for like a few of our friends, because we know that their opinion isn't like paid. They genuinely want to like suggest you something. And so they just what they did by building a community, they enabled word of mouth. That's it. And then they spread it. Now we have Notion ambassadors, Notion campuses. We have people who die to be Notion certified. Literally. It's ridiculous if you think about it. They want to be certified by Notion to just have this in their Twitter bio. It's crazy. Like, imagine building such a culture that people are just dying to be here and just put it in their bio.
And when you say community, do you mean people love the product so much they basically promote it for you, or do you mean like actual like online meeting rooms, like Discord servers, school groups, anything like that?
I guess you can mean both of them. Haven't seen any of the companies yet who have like, okay, maybe except for some of the quite old ones relatively that weren't like built on like digital products, because usually every single digital company has like a community that consists of users, and it's like in some Discord server or something like this. Right now I see lots of like AI apps, and almost each of them has a community because they understand that they're just a commodity, actually. Like, there are so many AI tools right now. Unless you have a great customer support and an excellent community where you can sort out your problems and just grow together, you're just like everyone else. That is it. Everyone can copy your software. Nobody will be able to copy people who follow you. When
Yeah.
I've been talking about also audiences, even if you say personal brands, let's take Andrew Tate, perfect example. He was banned so many times from all of those platforms, yet he hasn't lost all of his followers.
They like him even more now, I think.
Yes. And that's not because he has some sort of like an email list, like everyone says. Oh, have an email list. Forget about that. No. Like, you have certain open rate on your email list. How many people are gonna click on your new account on some new social media platform? You would still need to be built from scratch in any case. Even like only if you're some sort of like high-end authority, like which is liked by everyone. Still, even still, I bet that someone is gonna build up their audience as fast as they did before, with an email list compared to like having it right here at the snap of their fingers inside of their community. You know. And so with Andrew Tate, like just because of the fact that he had Hustlers University and like people are repurposing his TikToks on their will. Crazy. That's the community.
And the affiliate links.
Yeah, and affiliate links, obviously. I mean, it's a part of the strategy, obviously.
Yeah. This has been really interesting. You've had lots of like good stories. It's been cool to hear you share them. Is there anything else you want to say before we round up?
I guess 3 words. Think for yourself.
Think for
Literally.
yourself. Yeah, that's good.
That's simple.
All right, where can people find you?
People can find me on Twitter at HelioHype, basically. As of right now, only platform, but who knows? Maybe in some future, nearest one, I'm gonna, I don't know, open some YouTube channel and start rambling about some stuff.
Yeah.
Who knows?
And then if people want you to help them with their community, they can just send you a DM, is it?
Exactly. I have a website. Maybe you can book a call with me. It's all in my Twitter profile.
Yeah, I'll put the link to that. Thanks, Valeria. I think that's it.
Yeah. Thank you for inviting me here.
No problem. I've seen you hanging around in that area of the internet for a while, and we never properly spoke. So I was like, yeah, let's do this.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I found you on AirChat, and it was kind of interesting and surprising in a way.
How so?
I don't know, seeing familiar faces from Twitter.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's yeah, I do see a lot of the same people. It's very interesting. All right, have a good rest of your day.
Yeah, you too.
Goodbye.
See ya.